Ever feel like you're shouting into the void, putting all this work into creating content, but like not really reaching as many people as you could be?
Yeah, I know that feeling's a common one for sure.
Well, get this. I was going through some articles, just doing some reading on content creation, and I found this super interesting piece by Curt Robbins. He's a senior technical writer.
Okay.
So, this guy knows his stuff, right?
Yeah, right.
And Robbins is arguing that if you're creating content, especially in tech, you're missing out if you're not using audio.
Interesting. He's definitely onto something. There, I, a lot of people overlook audio, but it can be really powerful.
For real. And Robbins, he goes beyond just the basics of like, oh, you should use audio. He talks about how we need to change our thinking from learning styles, like, oh, this person's a visual learner, to consumption styles.
I see. Yeah.
Right.
That's interesting, thinking about how people consume information now. It's so different, right?
Totally.
It's not just reading a book. It's not just listening to us talk.
Right.
It's text, it's audio, it's video. It's all these different ways that people are taking in information.
Exactly. And audio just fits in so seamlessly with how we live our lives now. Like, how many times have you listened to a podcast on your commute or while you're like walking the dog or even doing the dishes,
All the time.
Robbins points out there are millions of people who are consuming audio content this way, often while they're doing other things.
It makes you realize how many people you might not be reaching if you're not creating that kind of content. And it's not even just about convenience either.
And that's another thing that Robbins really brings up that kind of like stopped me in my tracks, He talks about the accessibility angle. Like,
Yeah.
for somebody with dyslexia or a visual impairment, they can have a hard time with traditional written content, right?
Absolutely. And Robbins actually, he brings up a statistic, and it's kind of mind-blowing. He says that there's something like 15 to 44 million people in the U.S. alone who have dyslexia.
Wow.
To some degree. That's a lot of people.
That's a huge chunk of the population. And it makes you think like, okay, not just dyslexia, but you've got people with visual impairments. You've got people who, just learn better by listening. And like, we talk a lot about inclusion these days. And I feel like using audio is like this really tangible way to make information accessible to more people.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, it's about meeting people where they are. And audio does that in a way that I think a lot of other mediums just can't.
Right.
And, you might be thinking, oh, well, creating audio content, that sounds like it takes a lot of time. It sounds expensive. But it's actually becoming a lot easier than it used to be because of technology, of course.
Are you talking about AI? Because that's like all the buzz right now.
Yeah, exactly. These AI tools they're really changing things. Robbins even mentions Google's Notebook LM.
Okay.
Have you heard of that?
I think so.
Basically what it does is it takes your written text and it turns it into audio, like spoken audio.
So wait, I could take, let's say, a blog post that I wrote,
Yeah.
feed it into this Notebook LM thing, and it would spit out like an audio version.
Pretty much. I mean, it's still early days, right?
Right.
But the technology is already really impressive. And what's so exciting is that it's only going to get better.
Right.
Like imagine being able to choose different voices for your audio. So maybe you want a really warm, friendly voice for like a welcome message, but then you want something that sounds more, I don't know, authoritative for like a technical explanation. Right?
Oh.
You could have all these different options.
And you could even tailor it to different audiences. I mean, could you imagine being able to offer your content in multiple languages without having to hire like a whole team of voice actors?
Exactly. And that's just the beginning. I mean, think about being able to adjust like the pacing of the audio, the tone of the audio, so that it's more engaging to, say, different age groups or people with different learning styles.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it just feels like the possibilities are kind of endless here.
They really are. And I think, it's a really exciting time to be talking about content creation.
Right.
Because it feels like we're on the edge of like this whole new world.
Totally.
And I think for people, especially, who maybe haven't had as many opportunities to share their ideas because creating content in the past has been so difficult, this has the potential to really, open things up and let anybody share their story, share their ideas in whatever format works best for them.
Yeah, and it goes back to what Robbins was saying. He was really hitting home this point that ignoring audio is a huge missed opportunity.
Yeah.
It's about reaching more people. It's about making your content accessible. It's about keeping up with how people actually want to consume information.
And, when you think about it, like even 5-10 years ago, creating audio content was a lot harder than it is now. But now, with these AI tools becoming more sophisticated, more readily available,
Right.
it's really like if you're not at least thinking about audio, you're missing out on something.
Yeah. So anybody listening out there, whether you're creating like technical documents or marketing materials or even just, internal memos for your team, like think about how you can maybe work audio into what you're doing.
Yeah.
Could that report you're putting together also be a podcast episode? Could you share those meeting notes as an audio file for people who missed the meeting or who, would rather listen than read?
Exactly. It's just about expanding your idea of what content can be and how people might want to interact with it.
For sure. For sure. Well, this has definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
And hopefully for everyone listening out there, it's maybe sparked some ideas for you as well. So until next time, keep those ears tuned in and those minds open because you never know what you might discover.